Russell Vought, Office of Management and Budget. He is the director and one of my personal heroes, and I think yours too, Stu. Welcome to the program, Russell.
Thanks, Glenn. Appreciate having me on.
You bet. Okay, so I want to talk to you about the Republicans because I believe they're kind of a waste of space. They are not doing the things that I think the president promised, and that is cut the budget and cut regulation in dramatic ways. And President Trump has been playing very, very nice with them, trying to get them to do what I think is something by passing the big, beautiful bill. Can you tell me where we stand on this and what's in it?
We're working through it right now. The House they're trying to meet their instructions. They basically passed a budget that would have 1.5 trillion in savings and about $4.5 trillion in tax relief. And they are working through to get a bill that can pass. And we're right there with them trying to get it done. And I think it would be big savings. We could go north of that. And I think that is the goal, is to try to figure out how to make this a historic opportunity to both extend the tax cuts, do the tax cuts the president wanted to do on the campaign, no tax on overtime, some other things, no tax on Social Security benefits, and then to really make sure that this is an opportunity to have some of the highest reforms to mandatory spending since the 1990s. And there's a lot that we can do in this area. And I think that the House right now is trying to put these bills together. We spent so much time debating whether you have a couple bills or one bill. We lost some time in that, and we're trying to catch up. And I think they're hard at work, and we just got to be right there by them to help them get it done.
So when are we expecting this to be voted on and possibly go through?
My hope is next week that they pass it out of committee, the two big committees of Ways and Means and Energy and Commerce, and then go to budget and set up a vote thereafter on the House floor. That's our hope. That's what we're working towards. I don't think they've noticed yet, the committees, but that's what we're.
So, Russ, can you do me a favor? I mean, I'm sure you've done this to Congress, but I don't know the American people really understand how dire this situation is. I mean, I got a letter from a family member who I just love dearly a couple of weeks ago, and he said, Glenn, you know what the president is doing? And I said, well, what the president is doing is trying to save the country from the Great Reset, because a reset is coming, and you want it to be towards shareholder capitalism, not stakeholder capitalism. But with our debt the way it is, the interest rates that we're now paying, bigger than the defense budget, no country has ever survived this. Can you give us some idea on how serious? I mean, Congress needs to move a little quicker.
That's look, we have $36 trillion in debt. As when I left office the first time under President Trump, we had about $300 billion per year in interest costs, and now it's above the defense spending at $900 billion, right?
Actually 1.1.
So we've got this enormous interest cost as a result, and it's one of the reasons why you've heard an emphasis from the administration on balance, on taking dramatic actions through DOGE. Our budget that you referenced in the lead up is the lowest non-defense spending since 2000, adjusted for inflation. And I think what we would try to do to deal with kind of the paralysis on Capitol Hill is to change the reality on the ground. I mean, I think that's what DOGE has done in a fundamental way, and we're going to try to make those savings permanent through a couple of different ways. But it's to force Congress to, if they want to be a part of the process, come alongside of us. But we're going to move in as much as we can within the parameters of the law and the Constitution. We're going to move as fast and aggressively as possible to change the reality on the ground, with reductions in force, with reorganizations, with doing a programmatic review of spending that doesn't have to go out, through the use of rescissions. There's a whole set of tools in our box that we're going to use aggressively to get Congress moving in our direction, because we cannot be in a normal situation as an administration where we just kind of send bills up and wait on them.
Right.
We have one big bill that needs to occur. We've tried to put everything as we possibly can on that because it has procedural protection in the Senate. But even in that, it was, part of our thinking was to make sure we limit the number of things that we have to go to Congress for.
The taxes. I was hoping that we were going to get new tax cuts, and not just the renewal of the Trump tax cuts, but I was hoping Congress would get serious and we'd go even deeper than that. And now the White House the president last night tweeted, I know that Congress, they're going to be wishy-washy on, they're going to get blamed if they raise any taxes on the very rich, but I'll go along with it if they want to do that. That's a little scary. We should be going the other way, shouldn't we?
Well, I think the president ran on a set of tax proposals that he's been very excited about, committed out, designed towards the working class, that we, from an economic standpoint, also believe are really critical to getting more and more of labor force participation out of this part of the economy. And we think it would be a huge boon to the impetus on the economy to growth. And so we are living in a world where we don't have the ability to have unlimited tax cuts.
Right. I know.
And I think you're seeing a lot of different navigation on that.
Is it impossible to go back to the 2019 budget? I mean, why can't we just reset and say we're going back to that budget? It was fine then. It's fine now.
We are trying to do that with what you saw in the budget that we sent up.
Okay.
That is essentially what that budget represents. It's an effort to go back. Non-adjusted for inflation, it goes back to 2017. It's a 35% cut for most programs when we account for maintaining infrastructure and veteran spending. But that's what we're trying to do. Do the entitlements, the mandatory spending, the interest, do those have an impact on our ability to go back overnight to 2019? Yes, they do. And so that's really what we're trying to say. And I do think that there's a newfound desire to cut spending, even in the context of a tax cut on the Hill. I mean, you have a ton of members that are really trying to make sure this is either deficit neutral, right, or you have this is a moment that can be used for significant mandatory reform. So
to get there, are tax hikes on the rich part of that plan?
Look, the president, put out a truth this morning. He said, look, I think he's of a couple different minds. He has always been very focused on the things he ran on. This was not something that he ran on. He ran on the no tax on overtime,
right.
No
tax on tips,
no tax on tips, all that kind of things. And so that's really what we've been trying to fit in to the amount that Congress is ready to reduce. At the same time, we have to extend the tax cuts from his first term.
I saw in the budget that we are increasing defense and homeland security. Is that border? Is that why this is happening?
On the border, it is we want to increase and really buy out all of our increases over the next 3 to 4 years in one bill. And we're doing that. This is the paradigm shift, and I'm really glad you asked. We no longer want to be in a situation where we have to get Democrat votes for defense increases that then they put us in a situation where they have to lever up and demand that not only do our cuts not happen, but that we have to increase non-defense spending because we need their votes in the Senate. Secondly, they flat out oppose any border spending. I mean, they put us on the precipice of a shutdown every single time we wanted to increase spend for ICE or the wall. And so our view is to actually look to how they did it under the Joe Biden administration and put those increases on the mandatory One Big Beautiful Reconciliation Bill. And then it puts us in a situation where we have united the Republican Party so your defense hawks are not working against us in the appropriations process to actually get non-defense cuts. That's what we're trying to do. And then we've got DOGE working overtime with Pete Hegseth to get reforms within DOD because obviously there's waste there as well. And at least in this first year, to make sure we reinvest those and let the new leaders there get a sense of where the reforms need to be.
So with all the DOGE stuff, this has nothing to do with DOGE, but I was glad to see Kash Patel yesterday come back out and say, no, I'll go with the budget on the FBI, because he was saying, no, we can't live on that. We need more. And, cut. And I was glad to see that he kind of changed his position on that yesterday. But with DOGE, I'm seeing that Congress is like, well, we're not going to take all of the DOGE recommendations. Why?
Yeah, I think that's the question that Congress needs to ask. And they've been on two minds. Number one, they say, send us all these rescission bills. And I'm willing to send rescissions bills. Our administration is, the Trump administration is, but they have to pass. And so if they don't pass, it impacts our ability to use some of the tools that we would have executively to spend less of that money. And so we are working with them. That's why I haven't formally sent up the 9.3 first round of rescissions from DOGE. I am having great conversations, surprisingly, with the Appropriations Committee, kind of historic in of itself. And they're trying to think through, okay, what's the version that we could do this a little bit different but hit the same amount of savings? And so that's a healthy back and forth. I think that in and of itself is a sign of this is a little bit different, Glenn. This is more like the early 1980s when Reagan first came in than anything we've seen recently. Congress is saying we're going to ignore your budget, said we want to hit your number. So it's early. I don't know if that will materialize, but I am optimistic about it.
How optimistic are you that, because, I've talked to the president about this just a couple of weeks ago, and I said, we are playing such a dangerous game because we have to. I think America, no country's ever turned around from this point, and we have to. And it just requires some really big boy pants to do it. But I'm just so concerned about it, and I'm hoping that we can get the reduction on the staff. I know that you're doing a fantastic job on reducing the number of federal employees. You believe we're going to be able to get these things actually codified? So if things don't go well, or even if they do go well, but it's not President Trump the next time, that this path remains this direction?
I do. So I think if you zoom out for a second, I think we're going to come away from this year in particular. We've had no wins on spending in like 2 or 3 decades. Paul Ryan kind of put us in this cul-de-sac forever. I think we're going to come away with this year with probably the largest mandatory savings ever, or adjusted for inflation, since the 1997 balanced budget agreement. That's going to happen. I think we're going to see the appropriations process fixed for the first time because of our talking about executive tools like rescissions and impoundment. It's going to cause the appropriations process a return to separation of powers, that Congress actually listens to our cuts.
Wow. And
we may not get all of them, but we'll get some of them. And I think we're going to see something that is material progress on that front. Third, I remember coming on your show in the first term, and you're just like, the extent to which the career bureaucracy is just impregnable is just totally unacceptable. And you pushed us on that. And I think, many of us, the president, Elon, have spent a ton of time thinking about this. And I think that will be one of the biggest stories, the extent to which the things that have been done, the fork in the road has fundamentally changed the reality on the ground. And so we will have a much smaller bureaucracy as a result of it, notwithstanding the laws that are on the books that have been a barrier thus far.
I have to tell you, I stay away from Washington, D.C., as much as I try to stay away from the plague. But next time I'm up, Russ, I'd love to sit down with you and do a long-form interview with you, because you're really one of the good guys, and thank you for everything you're doing.
You got it. Anytime. Thanks, Glenn.